Everybody, Chris Wojnarski. We're back again for, I guess, a part 2 of our shelf building, the world's best shelves ever built. So stay tuned.
Harden up and everything, it should be good then. And it came out pretty good.
Aluminum Plasma Cutting Safe Shelves Build Part 2, Season 2, Episode 9.
Warning. Flashing lights occur during this video. Please use caution. The content and techniques you see in this video are performed by professionals. We ask that you do not attempt at your own risk. Thank you.
Alright, so we're back again for part 2. Part 1, I did the frames over here. I guess I'll show you the date. This was pretty spread apart.
September 30th today is, and here's my shelves that I was building. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, and I got one painting over there. And I don't know when the last time I did that was. It might have been a month ago. I had a lot of stuff come up recently. My brother, he just got flooded out in a storm from Helena, whatever. My dad died like a month ago or so, and some other stuff just came up, so we put this on hold for a little bit. Luckily, Roy wasn't in a little rush for this, so we're getting it done now though. So about a month later and we're back to it. Anyway, if you haven't seen part 1, this is, I guess, part 2. Part 1 was just building all these frames right here, and these are for my friend Roy. He owns a coin shop, and
I'm not sure why I keep saying Roy's shop. Well, it is Roy's shop, but it's Zane's shop too. But Zane's the one who asked me to build these shelves for him, not Roy. So sorry about that, Zane.
has a safe with all the coins in it, I guess, and they're custom made frames, I guess, that he had. He had plywood in there before, and the plywood was just sinking down, and a shelf or two broke, and now we just got to make something custom, and they wanted something strong, but something that would work. And my thought at first was a piece of aluminum. I might have said this in part 1, but we'll show you again. My thought was like a solid piece of aluminum. This was the easiest thing. It probably would have been a lot more expensive, but like a piece of 1/2-inch sheet of aluminum like that, and just cut it out to size. And that would have been probably strong and light, but that would have been about $2,000 for a full 5x10 sheet of that, I think it was. So that was a lot. Plexiglass or acrylic or something would have been, Lexan would have been a lot of money, and it wouldn't have been as good, I don't think. So that was my second guess. My third guess was just making something like this, and that's what I went with. I went with 16 gauge because I didn't want to make it too heavy. That was the thing. He didn't want it too heavy, where that aluminum sheet was a little too heavy for him. I wanted to do 1/8 inch, but I think 1/8 inch would have just been a lot heavier. So I went 16 gauge. Here's our things. We made it all up and everything. Used our fixture table to build all that, and that worked out really good. That's what made me want to make a video on it, but this baby works good. You can see how it's working good right now for this. I'm in the process of making this thing. These are shelves too. What's the coincidence, right? But 2 parts. This is a separate part, and these just got to get welded onto that. And the table's holding it up pretty good though, allowing everything to be good. Square it up like that, and just fixture table is working awesome. But anyway, then I got a sheet of aluminum for the top. I think this is like 090 or something like that, this aluminum, and I got a piece of a sheet of it, 5x10. I already started cutting it after work. Right now it's about like 5:30 or something like that, 5 o'clock, and I just want to get all this done. I don't feel like coming in on a Saturday and doing it, so we're doing it anyway. I cut probably 3/4 of it. I just got 2 more cuts to make, and I thought maybe I should just continue this video and finish it. So I forgot. You guys missed 3, I think. 3 already made, so that's my goal, is just making 3 of them. And here at the shop, we do not have a shear that is bigger than, we don't have a big shear. We got one over there on that iron worker that cuts up to 18 inches wide, and that's really good shear, but it only cuts 18 inches wide. And we got one over here, but the problem is with this one is it only cuts like 20 20 something inches wide, but this thing folds it sometimes. This thing's not the best, I guess, blade on there, where it sometimes it'll cut through and sometimes it'll fold it, so I don't want to take the chances of cutting through that, which it probably could. I needed about 24 3/4 inches, which I don't think it would have worked anyway. Yeah, let's see, 20, yeah, it might have, but I don't want to chance that. That would only did these parts though, because what I did was with the 5x10 sheet, I cut it. So say this is like say this was your 5x10 sheet. I cut it 31 and 1/4 inches, 31 1/4 inches, 31 1/4 inches. Well, actually, I did one on that side, one on this side, and I got one from the middle. That way I have the clean factory end on each side. And then, so I did that, and then I'll have little leftover. That was my leftover piece. But anyway, after I cut that, then I'll be left over with a piece like this, and then I'll cut 24 3/4. So I'll measure here, cut 24 3/4, and I don't want to measure from here to here, because that would give me a bad end right there. So I'll measure from that end, cut that in, measure from this end, cut that in, and the middle would be the scrap. That way you have more fresh edges on that. If it was on a shear, it really wouldn't matter. You'd have fresh, clean ends, but we don't have that. So we got to do this. I'll use my plasma cutter. Well, we got Hypertherm Power Max 85. That thing works pretty good. Just takes a little more time, where a shear would have been done and over with. But anyway, back to it. So, well, I guess I'll show you how I measure this and cut it, instead of, because I like to use a straight edge for this. So we got a couple different size straight edges, but these ones are all, I think, 1/2 inch thick. So we got like a 5-footer or 4-footer, got like a 6-footer, and like a 12-footer or something like that. And I think they're all 1/2 inch, but it all depends on your tips, what your tips that you use. This tip right here is a drag tip, and this allows us to, I don't know if you could see, hang on, but kind of sit right on there like that, if you could see that pretty good, and allow us to ride that whole thing like that. Or you could even did a thinner one and went like that, but you kind of want this piece, even though this is a drag tip, it's a lot better if you lift it up a little bit off the piece, and it just gives you something straight. Or you could probably even do a thicker piece like that, and then hold it like a big piece of angle and stand it straight up like that, maybe like a piece of 1 inch or something, and stand it up like that. So it all depends the tips that you have. So like that tip, that works good for that tip. But if you were to use a different tip, like we got these new tips, we tried out these fine tips, ultra fine. I think this is it, pretty sure. Or nah, I don't know where it is. It's one of these, I think, or maybe it's in here. Offset, yeah, it's this new tip. These are ultra fine, which that probably would have been better to cut that, but I haven't used these yet, and I know my set offs what I need with this. So this would change you a different offset with this. So anyway, that's that. So I'll show you my little process of how I do it. Hang on 1 second, and bear with me with the light. This isn't the best lit shop. We need some more lights. All these lights are out right over here. That's not a light, that's the ceiling vent or whatever, but I closed all the doors just because I don't want anybody coming in, and I left my little door open over there. So we'll get you ready, set you up on my little first person view thing. Here's another thing too, I might do a little video on this. I got this the other day at Harbor Freight for steel. So anyway, back to it, got my thing, and we'll start getting to it. I painted these things. I'm in the process of painting these. This is like a textured paint. This is kind of cool. Those I still got 3 to do, and these warped just a hair, like a little bit, so I had to tweak them just a little so they sit nice and flat. And I'm in the process of painting these. I just set them up I'll set one up and I'll put like a can of paint on it, or a coat of paint on it a couple of times a day while I'm working, like in the morning, lunchtime, and just throughout the day. I just take like a minute and just spray it really fast, get back to work. But that's all primed, and I want to put this other paint on it. Kind of cool paint. This stuff, Rust-Oleum multi-textured, but it has like white flakes in there and it's textured. It's kind of cool. It's expensive. It's like 10 bucks for that. It's only like $1 or $2 more. But I didn't want to just do plain black. I thought plain black was just boring. If you're going to spend that much money making something cool, I would have wanted to do something cool like this, make a cool little color, but it wouldn't have matched anyway to save black, so that would match. But anyway, back to it. Sorry for my rant. Just talking to you and explaining my days, I guess. I put you on my little view thing, and this thing works pretty good. But how I do this, my numbers are wearing off, but 24 3/4 and 31 1/4. So I already cut these to 31 1/4 this way, and that came out pretty good. The only problem with the plasma cutter is you're probably within a 1/16 of an inch. I could get it pretty close to like a 32nd of an inch. But like you see, like right over here, we're pretty dead on right there. And we'll come over here and let's see how we are right there. Like maybe a 64th over, if that. But after I grind it down, it'll be good. It's not the end of the world. 64th is nothing. So let's see. My next measurement was 24 3/4. So I'll measure from the good end. And if you plasma cut it and anything, you just want to make sure there's no burrs on it, because that will throw your tape measure off. So I'll go 24. Let's see if you can see this. 24 3/4, and I'll put a mark on it, which I already did. Now this offset I wrote here on the machine for that one. It's 1/4 plus a 32nd. So go 24 3/4, and I'll go over this way 1/4, which would be 24 1/2 plus a 32nd, and I'll mark it. And I just put the circle around my good mark like that, so I know that's where my good one is, and that's where I set the straight edge to, is that one. Then I'll go over there, do the same thing, and I always double check my measurements just in case it's off. And then this one I just came over here, did this way, 24 3/4, and then 1/4 and a 32nd that way, and then same thing over there. So that's that. And then I take my little straight edge and make sure there's no burrs on your straight edge, and I'll put it on my first mark. And then here's another thing too, is this is my piece that I want to keep. I want to put the straight edge on this side. I don't want to put it on this side of the line, like where my line is. That would be fine, it's on the line and everything. But if I'm cutting it and I slip off just a little bit, that'll ruin my good piece. So no bueno. I learned that from Judd, actually. That was a good idea. So if you're cutting, you want to clamp it down on this side, and I just use these little clamps. These hold it pretty good. Gives you enough room to bop it a little if you need to. I mean, the vice grip clamps work a little better, but I don't think I really need that. You could kind of tell if you need it or not. So put it on my line or close to it, then I'll bop it, get it close. Then I'll come over here, check this one, get it close, and right there we're good. So that way, when I take my plasma cutter and I cut it like this, that's how I need to cut it. But if I cut it and I slip like that, or I angle it wrong or something, it's only cutting to my bad end. It's not going to ruin my good end. So that should be essentially pretty good. I mean, it might just, if you go like that or something, it could be a little longer, shorter, but it'll keep it good. And if you need to, you could go over a second time or something, which ain't the best thing to do because it won't be as straight of a cut, but it works pretty good. So now I'll just double check it with my tape measure, and I'll measure on this side, or you could double check it like this and just eyeball it. And I put it like right there, and I need 24 3/4, which that's about it. 24 3/4, and that's about it, but that's not really good measurement. So what I do now, I'll check this to make sure they're both lined up pretty straight, and I'll just butt it up like that, and I'm about a 32nd under 22, and that's about exactly 32nd under 22 in the middle. This one was a little more, so I just want to bop this one just to, actually I want the sheet to be a little smaller, so I bop this just a hair small, so it's a little closer to a 64th or whatever. So that's just a hair over 15/16, and same thing with that. So that's good. I like these little tape measures too. I actually like the Hart ones better, but the little 12-footers, the auto lock ones, they're just nice for little work like this. Like most of my work, I don't do 25-foot lengths and stuff. When I got cut on the saw or whatever, I got the bigger tape measure, but it's just nice using this. You don't gotta, it's not heavy and bulky. Easy to use. So set that up, get my ground clamp on. I already checked my measurements, made sure I was good, and put that on. I was recording a little time lapse for Instagram, so got my machine on, and I don't really know the best way to get the best burrs, so I just crank it up as high as it goes and let her rip. So we'll get my little protective clothing on and get ready to go.
Got my shield.
Now when I cut, I like to keep it up like that just a little, not that much, but just a little, so the burrs don't build up like this way. And I like to keep this straight like this. I don't know if you could see that, but I want to keep it straight and not rock it too much. So, and make sure my lead's in the way. That way it's not binding up on me. And I can do it all in one swoop, and we're ready to go. Pretty good. Not a bad cut. I'll show you. Actually, that's a really nice cut. I don't know if you could see that, but it came out good. I'll take you along for the next one. Okay, so I got my piece marked. I measured all that. I flipped it, so that way I'm not using this piece that has the burr on it. I got a nice fresh piece. So put my ground clamp on. Make sure you do that, otherwise it won't cut. And I like to make sure whatever's on the metal, the good part's on the metal. That way it doesn't have to go through, even though it would work. And what I was saying before is with this, make sure when I'm cutting, I'm butt up like that. But I like to tilt it just a little like that, not that much, just a little bit, so it's off the ground a little, because otherwise it seems like if you're perfectly straight up and down like that, it builds up burrs and it gets a little hung up on the back and it kind of gets stuck. So if I do that, I think it blows it that way a little, and I just want to make sure it doesn't rock this way or this way. It's kind of hard to stop it from doing that, but whatever I could do, if I could be careful with that, the better. And we'll let her rip. Ready? Like to get the pre-flow going, and go. Adjust that a little. Ready? Thing when I'm cutting is I like to make sure like nothing's in my way and that the lead's not like hung up or anything. So when I'm cutting like this and my feet, like I got like a nice stance with my feet, so I could just do it all in like one continuous drag. I don't gotta cut it like halfway and then like back up like step like that or whatever, because like the more you stop and move, you're gonna move your hand a little and you'll see that inconsistency in your cut. So I noticed that, so I just like to make sure I could just kind of get the straightest shot I can with that. So we should be pretty good now. It's already 6:30 almost, so I don't know, we'll see. See how it goes. But yeah, I still got to just deburr those, round those corners a little. I got to straighten those 3 over there just a little. I put them on like a piece of wood and just tweak them a little. They're pretty close, but I just want to get them as flat as possible. And then I got to tape up the tops because I'm going to glue it down instead of riveting it. And that's it. Then start painting it. I was stuck. I didn't know what to do for I was thinking about it for a couple of days, how I wanted to mount that aluminum on here. My first plan was to drill it and countersink it, but that aluminum's not that thick, and this isn't thick either, where this is only like a 1/16 of an inch, where those countersink heads probably wouldn't have worked. That probably would have been a good idea, because it would have screwed it down. I really wanted to screw it just because, or rivet it, because that way I could get the aluminum plate off if I wanted to, or they wanted to. But if I glue it, it's going to be on there forever, which what else are you going to use the shelves for? I don't think it's really not going to be used for anything else or anything. So it's really probably the best bet, really. But I don't know, I just wanted to rivet it or screw it. So yeah, this is super thin. This is like 16, it's like 16 gauge, so it's like 1/16 of an inch or whatever. So you can't really countersink that. I had these countersink screws that I bought, and I don't think they would have worked. Where are they? First I bought these small little button head screws, but I don't know if those would have worked. And here's my other little countersink screws, but the whole countersink is like, I don't know, it's like almost 1/8 of an inch, where that's not even 1/8 of an inch, and there's not enough material in that to drill down, where it just wouldn't have looked right. That would have been the best thing to do, I think, but they wouldn't have worked for this. So I could have drilled it and riveted it, but my problem that I would have had, that I didn't want, is once these are the sheets and you screw them down or rivet it down, you got those little rivet heads, and there's going to be quite a few, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like probably 8 of them going all the way around. And if you put whatever you put in there, it's going to hit the rivets, and it just throws stuff off a little, where actually I think the glue would be the best thing to do. So that's what I'm doing. I put tape on this, so I'll just peel this tape up when I'm done and just glue it down to the paint. I taped it all on the top and it should be good to go. I know it'll be bare metal, but I mean, I wanted to protect it, but I didn't want a chance gluing it and then the glue not sticking on the paint, so that's what I did. That'll be fine. So good to go. And I made that out of regular carbon steel, which I kind of regret it in the long run. I probably could have went, well, steel was the best. I was debating on doing aluminum, but aluminum wasn't as strong. I took a piece and really wasn't strong because there's no supports in the middle, so that wasn't really working. Stainless was strong, but it was double the money. But after the time I spent grinding all the mill scale off of all that, and then I think it was just a mill scale grinding off and everything, it was a lot more work. Where if it was stainless, I probably wouldn't have even had to paint it, and it would have been good. Probably, yeah, I don't think I would have had to paint it. I mean, I could have. It would have been silver, but it would have been fine. So now think about that sometimes. So when you're building a project like that, between dealing with stainless and steel, if you got to powder coat it or paint it afterwards, and if you got a lot of mill scale to grind up, if you're MIG welding it and it's not super structural, you don't always have to grind the mill scale. But if you are TIG welding it, you definitely want to grind the mill scale. And if it's going to be outside or anything, that it's going to rust, so you might want to paint it. So it's not, sometimes it's worth it to just switch to aluminum or stainless. Even though it's a little bit more money, it probably would have evened out in the long run, and you would have had better material and easier for yourself. So just good to think about. But always think about that whenever you're building a project like these. Here, I'll show you. This is more of a talking video than it is working, but just always think about that when you're building a project like this. Like I had to grind all this mill scale off of all these corners, this piece, this piece, this piece. I had to do like an inch off each end, and then all these were 4 pieces, and I had to grind the mill scale off that. So that was a lot of grinding. That took me at least an hour grinding all that, maybe more. So a lot more work and time going into that when you're building a project. And now I got to paint it. So if that was stainless, like this person has a stainless thing close to over here, you wouldn't have to grind the mill scale off or paint it, depending on how you weld it. But somebody has a shelf almost like this. It's very similar. Let's see. But this is what it looked like in the long run. And that would have been fine as long as you grind the welds off after you're done welding it, like the discoloration, it would be fine. And you won't have to paint it, and you won't have to grind the mill scale. So food for thought. Shut the machine off and call it a day and leave it out for whenever. But I like to clean my stuff up when I'm done with it. So air compressor, I like to undo that because I don't want to keep that air going into that line. But I want to clean that up. Just want to clean up so that way there's not stuff all over. That's like my OCD is, I like a clean work environment. I feel like when there's all clutter, like all up here and stuff, I don't work as efficiently. So that's just me. I don't know if other people are like that, but I like a nice clean work environment. I know it's hard to when you're a welder because you're always making a mess and you always have stuff out, but just I feel like it's better. Oh, I like to unplug this. One time we had our old plasma, it was plugged in, even though there's a breaker on the box. It surged through here and it blew out the board in the machine. So that's why I like to unplug that when I'm done using it. So now I'm just going to deburr these all really fast and we'll get ready to go. Another thing too, when we built this table, we built this earlier this year, like in the beginning of the year, I wanted to turn it into a no grinding on table. I think I mentioned this a couple of times in videos, but no grinding on table, no dusting, like that means no scotch spraying, no sanding, no drilling. Thank you, keep clean. People still do that, but it's just nice having a nice clean table. Like if you're working on it, your hands aren't black after you touch the thing, full with dirt. Like that just started to irritate me and everything it does now. But I always wanted a nice clean table because like all this stuff, no one keeps. This one I don't really use anymore. This is our old table, but no one keeps it clean, and I could just feel all that dust on there. And say you take your part, you go to put it down, you move it, it's going to scratch it up more, especially if you got tape measure or you got anything, especially if it's steel and you got magnets, it's going to get up all on those magnets. And just nice having a nice clean environment. I mean, I learned that, I seen that, I think I listened to that on somebody's podcast, Welding Tips and Tricks podcast. It was, I forget who the guest was, but he had a nice clean shop and everybody always praised it and said, how do you keep your shop so clean? And he just said, like, they loved his table and everything. And he said, I just take care of everything. I clean up after I'm done and that's it. Like, it's not hard, you just keep it clean.
Like drill press and stuff, for instance. You're done drilling, you clean your work environment, right?
Somebody didn't do that, but that's just something I like. So anyway, that's like no grinding over there, so I like to do that. Even if I got something to grind, I got this welding shield thing, whatever you want to call it, and I'll just slide it over here if I got something that's going to shoot the sparks this way. And I got my table. I mean, like, how hard is it to walk instead of drilling or grinding over there? Is it that much harder to walk over here and take your piece over here and grind your piece on here? I noticed when I work on it, I like it a lot better, and I feel people are enjoying my table more. They're my drops, so I'm actually going to deburr my drops too. That way, when I put them in somewhere, wherever I put them, just the burrs don't scratch everything or you don't cut yourself when you're going for another one. If you ever seen Breaking Bad before, but I got you ever see that blue stuff from Breaking Bad? Got some of that. No, it's Gatorade. Just Gatorade, that liquid powder stuff, and drink that from time to time. I don't always drink it, but throughout the day, if I drink enough waters and it's hot, I kind of have to have something else than water. So I just mix a little bit of that into my water, and it refreshes me. Even though there's a ton of sugar in there, still need a change sometimes. Got my cap on, keep this stuff out of my hair, put my shield on, and we'll get ready. It's starting to get dark out, so let's see. Yeah, it's starting to get dark out, so we'll hurry up. Hopefully another half hour or so. Get going.
I'm gonna end this video in a minute, so it's getting kind of long, a lot of shop talk going on there, so sorry about that if you didn't like it, but I'll make a part 3 and that should be the complete video, so thanks for watching.
Alright, we are all done grinding, deburring, and everything. Here's my extra pieces. So this is our leftovers. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I deburred them all, that way I don't cut my hand. Here's our knife pieces right here. Nice and deburred. And I rounded my corners. And after I did it with the flap wheel, the flap disc, still leaves a little bit, like just a little rough edge on there. It's not bad at all. Like I didn't do this, but I went over those with this thing, the Scotch-Brite roll-lock disc. And that's a little big one, but just smooths it out a lot better. So I could flapper wheel it first, and then I'll go over it with that, and it's just a lot smoother. And I just took the extra time just to make it, what, 5-10 minutes to do the rest of them, and just 10 times better that way. If you rub your hand on it, you definitely don't scratch it, or it doesn't feel rough. Even though this one's fine too, it's just a lot better with that. So just did that, and it looks a lot better. Still got fingerprints on it. I'm debating whether or not to. I got aluminum cleaner, but I don't want to do that on that because that could stain this. I got Oakite, this Oakite stuff, Oakite 33. We use that in a bucket out here to clean our stainless steel. It's a passivation solution or whatever. We mix it with water and just rub a Scotch-Brite or whatever, and I could do that with that. That kind of works pretty good. It kind of shines up aluminum and cleans it up a little bit. So it's dark, getting dark out right now, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Probably tomorrow or another day this week, I'll maybe take a little test piece like this, and I know it should work, but I'll just see how it works with this little piece and see how it looks. It should just shine it up, and with the Scotch-Brite pad, it might put a little finer grain in there or something, or I could take a little washcloth or something and just wipe it down, just get all the fingerprints off of it and everything. And one last cleaning before I glue it onto the piece. So that's good. I'll just put a little.
Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Instagram where I post more often at Wojnarski. See you on the next one.